what's up, everyone? Sam Shaw here, founder of Wall Street Mastermind. I'm excited to be back today with another client interview for you guys. Today, I'm excited to have Andrew on with us. Andrew is someone that we've been working with for a while now, actually. I guess a little over half a year, actually, probably like more like 8 months. And, we just helped him go through his junior summer internship recruiting process. And he was able to come out the other side with a very successful outcome. And so definitely wanted to get him to come on here and just kind of talk about his journey with you guys. And, hopefully he'll share some insight along the way on how he was able to accomplish his goals and get to such a great outcome. And hopefully, the things that we talk about will also help you on your own journey a little bit as well. So, with that said, Andrew, I want to thank you for taking time to talk to us today and just to share your story. But if you don't mind, maybe you can start off by introducing yourself a little bit so that our audience knows who you are.
Sure, sure. Well, thanks for having me, Sam. Yeah, so my name's Andrew. I'm a junior now at Cornell University, and I recently acquired an offer at Citi in their FIG group, their financial institutions group, and really excited about it.
Nice, man. That's awesome. So, I guess to start off, like, I think you joined Wall Street Mastermind like late sophomore year, right? It was like maybe a month or so before you left for sophomore summer.
Mhm.
And so can you like take us back to the beginning, like prior to joining Wall Street Mastermind, like had you already been kind of working on investment banking recruiting on your own already? And if so, like what were some of the things that you've been doing? Or was Wall Street Mastermind kind of like the first time where you actually, started doing investment banking recruiting prep?
Sure. Yeah, so I guess I'll kind of start off more first semester sophomore year. So this is the fall of sophomore year when your older friends are kind of telling you to start getting at it, start working, and you're kind of just like I don't really have to. Like it's really early, and so that was kind of the mindset I had. I wasn't really putting in much effort. I was actually still looking for an internship for my sophomore summer, so wasn't really focusing on my junior summer at all, which I realized was definitely a mistake after a while. And so, I had some help from some older friends, kind of telling me the basics about investment banking, but not really much guidance other than that. And so, going into my second semester, so now we're in around January. Still not really taking it serious, even though by this time I definitely should have started networking. And it really went all the way down to spring break, actually. And this is when I cut my spring break kind of short, and I realized, I definitely have to get into it. And so, I started. That's really when I started kind of looking into investment banking, what I need to do in order to get a position. And I started realizing all the applications that had been open and were honestly closing, especially from the elite boutique side. Most of those were done, and some of the bulge brackets were opening up soon. And so, what my main concern was that I wasn't really sure exactly how to get all the resources I needed in order to, successfully get a position. It was a lot of, it would take a lot of time to get all those resources and, do all the research needed in order to, successfully get an offer. And so, after a month of really trying my best, I realized that, I was definitely late to the process. I didn't really have time to do that. And I was also taking a pretty hard course schedule. So, I realized that I really wanted a place where I would have all the resources, in one spot, and I could just use that as my main resource, whether I needed, somewhere to look about questions I had regarding networking or technical questions or behavioral questions. And that's when I came across Wall Street Mastermind, where um, it really just had all of that. It had everything in one place, and I would be able to kind of just use that resource, use all the different channels and such, use all the courses in order to really just make my application and my interviewing skills just the best they could be. And so yeah, that's kind of why I ended up joining the program, and yeah, it's been great ever since.
Gotcha, gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. So, you say you kind of started getting serious around spring break. I mean, I'm super old and I haven't had spring break in a long time. Like, when is spring break? Is that like January, February? Like no, February?
No, no. Yeah, so I mean, spring break is, for a lot of schools it's March, but for mine it was April. And so, this was
Oh.
in beginning of April. I had just came back from a trip to Mexico, which I spent all my savings on. And I just come back and I realized I really got to get to it. And so by this point, April, the elite boutiques were done, and yeah, I was really pretty stressed about it.
Yeah, yeah, gotcha. Okay. Um, so that makes sense. Um, I guess like why not why not just because it sounds like you had some older friends in school who were trying to help you, at least like earlier on when they were telling you like, hey, it's time to get your shit together or whatever, right? Um, I assume those are like also people that had gone through banking recruiting themselves, which is why they were kind of giving you advice in this area, right? So
Mhm.
like when you started to get, even though you didn't listen to them initially, when you were starting to get serious about it, um, why didn't you just like kind of go back to those same people and get help from them instead, as opposed to say like coming here and paying for a program like ours, especially after you just sound like
Mhm.
spending a lot of money over spring break,
Mhm.
like what made you want to do that? I mean, I mean you kind of talk about it a little bit, but like I guess the
Mhm.
question is not like really why you joined Welsh Mastermind, but like why not just a lot of people say, oh, I'm just gonna use the resources that I already have at school, or I'm just gonna
Right.
rely on my older friends or whatever. Like, why not just do that?
Right. Well, I would say that I had these resources. I had like a good amount of friends in investment banking. Only a small select of them were actually in like bulge brackets, most of them in middle markets. And I really wasn't really sure exactly, what I wanted. I wasn't very picky either, but um, I guess the main thing was kind of just the mentorship aspect, like they could definitely give me advice and, tell me the process of how to go about the investment banking recruiting, but they weren't really going to sit with me and show me how to network and show me how to perfect my resume. There's so many aspects of investment banking recruiting and the interview process that are really not taken into account, and I can't like just rely on these older friends to really carry me through the entire process, especially because of the just the late nature of where I was at. If this was in the winter, I definitely maybe would have, over break said, "Hey, like, could you help me out and kind of guide me through it?" And my friends were very helpful as well. But yeah, I definitely wanted that professional mentorship, and Wall Street Mastermind definitely had the resources, met multiple teachers and everything to kind of
Yeah,
help out, especially in regards to technical questions, because like my friends, they have offers, but there's still some analysts. They might not know all the answers to technical questions. Wall Street Mastermind. If I didn't know an answer to a question, I would just type it into the channel, and either a fellow student or an older student or one of the mentors would definitely help answer that, and it was just great that way.
yeah, gotcha. It sounds like, I mean, I think the biggest difference you kind of nailed on the head is obviously friends are help you as much as they can, to the degree that to the extent that it's convenient, right? But at the end of the day, like for someone who just went through a grueling recruiting process themselves, like the last thing they want to do is go through another grueling recruiting process as if like it was their own job, or just like realistically, no one's gonna do that as if it's their own job. Like, hey, they wish you
Exactly.
well, but like you still have to do
Exactly.
most of the you still have to do like most of the heavy lifting, and like people, it's not their obligation to like sit down with you for hours and hours on end and just like kind of hold your hand or walk you through it, right?
Mhm.
Versus
Exactly.
like for our model, like it actually is literally our job to walk you through everything, and so we're just a lot more invested in the process, and take it a lot more seriously, and I guess we have um like more of a vested interest to see you do well too,
Mhm.
because obviously if you do well, it makes us look good as a company, versus like if you don't do well, it makes us look bad, right? um
Exactly.
and so
Yeah,
I
nail
think
the
like
head.
if I really summarize it, it sounds like it comes down to like two main factors. One is like the level of experience is obviously different for maybe an upperclassman that's gone through the process one time themselves versus our team, where we've worked with hundreds of students at this point. And then the second thing is just like how invested is this person that's helping you going to be in your outcome and your success, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, nailed it up. You absolutely nailed it on the head. I mean, just the experience of all the mentors and even the students. Like there's students that, are going through it and have been putting a lot of effort towards it. And there's also people on the older side as well, maybe recruiting for full time or other things of that sort. And so just the big community and having, so many people in the program that are really just driven and have a lot of the answers and are just really intelligent regarding the technical topics and behavioral topics of the recruitment process is just really helpful in being able to get answers quickly and um, yeah, just that.
Yeah, I think like the community aspect that you touched on is huge too as well. Just like kind of being in the right environment and surrounding yourself with lots of other people who have either already gone through this process before you, and are still giving back, as well as maybe your peers or people who are in the same class as you and who are currently going through the process at the same time as you. But like
Mhm.
kind of being in that environment where everyone is kind of grinding together and everyone is kind of helping each other out. And anytime you have a question and you kind of put it into the Slack channel and you know any one of these people could respond to you right away and you kind of like get what you need and then get unstuck and then you continue to move forward and make forward progress. I think like that's huge in terms of like helping you be just more efficient because you never feel like you're stuck in any one place like not knowing what to do, right?
Exactly, exactly.
um so that's great. So I guess that's a good segue into kind of like um Wall Street Mastermind itself. So obviously, understand you why you decided to join Wall Street Mastermind. So then, like after you join, can you just kind of like give us like a high level overview of like what were some of the things that you did inside of the program to help you navigate through this process? Like maybe just like the two or three things that you thought were the most helpful for you personally, because it's different for everybody, but like what was it for
Mhm.
you?
Yeah, sure. So Um, all right. I think the most just like the best aspects of the entire program in general that just helped me the most. I'd say like really the behavioral guide, teaching you how to answer those behavioral questions definitely helped on the interviewing aspect and for behaviorals. I mean, when you're interviewing, no one really teaches you how to interview, really. You don't really know exactly what you're doing or how to answer these questions perfectly. But I really liked how Wall Street Mastermind offered like just a direct structure on how to answer all these questions, which were really applicable across the board. I was very rarely asked a behavioral where, I wasn't really sure how to answer it. I could definitely kind of come up with one of those stories or, it definitely made sure that aspects that I wasn't really well versed in before I saw the behavioral worksheet. I became well versed in afterwards, and that's regarding like deals and just the markets as well. So I really knew how to speak about those as well, and I got asked about those plenty of times in almost all of my interviews. So that was super helpful. And then I kind of addressed the community aspect. I think the community aspect is really amazing. So you have all these channels of all these people who are also recruiting. And I think just the best part about it is that people who are like really active and people are very kind to help. And it's not as competitive as you would expect it to be. You
Mm.
know, um, sorry, Sam, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. I think I might be there might be a little bit of connection issues. Uh hey, sorry about that. I think I got dropped off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. It's
All
fixed
right.
up.
Sorry about that. I think the last thing that I heard you say was just the community aspect. The best part about it is just how people are very active and willing to help and not
Mhm.
it's not as competitive as you would expect it to be.
Mhm. Exactly. So it's not as competitive as I expected it to be. A lot of these people are getting offers, but the banks are still recruiting. So I think there were various times where I'd be recruiting for a bank, and no matter which bank it is, whether it's a bulge bracket or a smaller bank, and there would be someone in the program that, I knew from who'd answered my questions in the past, or I've been talking to on the side, just developing relationships with, that had an offer at that bank and could like really just give me insight into how their recruitment process went, and how their interview process went. And that really helped give me like the proper insight on how to go about my studying and my preparation for those specific interviews. So that was extremely helpful. And then, of course, there's the checks that Wall Street Mastermind allows in regards to like your resume and your behaviorals, where you edit your resumes, you kind of write down all your behaviorals, you really structure them how they're supposed to be, and then you could submit them and you get them back and with advice on how to improve them. And I think that's really great, and gives, rather than just like watching a course or kind of just like reading on the internet how to improve a resume, it gives you really like specialized advice on how to improve those specific things. And then, definitely on the technical aspect, the courses are very helpful in helping you learn every single like relevant topic, as well as specific questions. And these are the classes that you take within Wall Street Mastermind, and they really help you with the relevant topics and learning everything conceptually. It really helped me understand everything conceptually, which partnered with some guides online, as well as partnered with the technical channel within Wall Street Mastermind, that I could ask questions that I couldn't find online. That definitely helped me a lot. And so, even even questions that you can find in the guides and questions that you can find, in the course, sometimes you're still like stuck on it. So let's say like working capital, I had a lot of difficulty kind of understanding, the role of working capital. And so I asked in the technical chat, like to explain that conceptually. And there's various other examples as well, but it really just helped me learn everything conceptually and learn everything better, even when those other resources like the guides online, or even my older friends, when they couldn't really help me, those channels are definitely extremely helpful in everything. And the mentors who have a lot of experience, they do a really good job of explaining, those concepts that are hard to understand. Just an insane job. They can really they really dumb down hard concepts for someone that really has no idea what's going on. So yeah, it's really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think on that last point, I'm sure everyone has experienced this too. Is like, most people, they try to self-study or self-teach all the technical concepts by, maybe reading a guide or watching a financial modeling course or something like that. And along the way, inevitably, you're going to run into concepts or questions that you just don't really fully understand, and you just can't really get the hang of it. And usually when that happens, like, that's where you kind of get stuck and you start spinning your wheels a little bit, because um you don't understand it, and for whatever reason it's just not clicking, right? And in times like that, like, reading a static guide that can't respond to you or can't answer questions isn't really that helpful, because you can just keep reading the same things over and over again and you're still not getting it. Versus if you actually have like a real human being, or maybe multiple people who actually understand what you're asking, and they can actually do a good job of explaining it to you, then that goes a long way, right? And actually, like, to your point about being good at explaining concepts in a simple and easy way to understand and kind of like dumbing it down, um that's a skill in and of itself too. Like there are a lot of people that know these concepts themselves,
Exactly.
but can't really explain it well or teach it to other people. um but then there's people that like know these concepts well and they know how to teach it to other people, right? And I think like the act of teaching it to someone else is actually funny, because the way we think about technical interview prep, like I always tell our students, like, the way you know that you are ready for the technical interview is if you can actually comfortably teach these concepts to someone else who knows nothing about finance, right? Like, if you can go and explain a DCF to your younger brother who's in sixth grade and he actually understands what you're saying, then like, you obviously know the DCF very, very well, and you're probably going to do well in the interview, right? And not just the DCF, but applies to like any other topic as well, right? Like M&A, LBO, valuation, like enterprise value, whatever you name it, right? Um, and so that's really like that's really how you want to learn technicals, is like learning it conceptually. Because I think you used the word conceptually a couple of times, and I think that's like really appropriate. Like most people, what they're doing is they're not really actually learning the concepts, but they're maybe like picking up the 400 questions guide and then like just memorizing the answers to these specific questions in the guides. And then like that ends up not working very well, because at that point you're hoping that your interviewer is just going to ask you the exact same questions that you memorized. But in reality, I don't know how many interviews you ended up going through, but like, I mean, how many times did they ask you questions that were not from those guides, right? Like it's
Yeah.
they're not just going to ask you the exact same question, because they know that everyone's already reading those guides, right?
Mhm. Yeah, you hit that on the head, and especially on that last point, um, there there was definitely times where, honestly, most of the time where I was asked questions about those specific concepts. I remember, there was something about the weighted average cost of capital, and the entire technical interview was just asking me conceptual variations, conceptual questions about variations of weighted average cost of capital, and how it affects the DCF and everything involving that. And you know, based on the guides, there's really not that much that much kind of information about it.
Mhm.
But really understanding it conceptually really helped me answer them. And so, yeah, I think that really helped me, especially on the later side. Now that I have an offer, I could definitely say that when when I was asked those technical questions, I definitely knew the answer to every single one, no matter how different they were to what I was normally used to or what those guys have. And I just knew that, the second I left that interview, I'd answered every single technical question right. And that was just like a really great feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think like the other point that you touched on, which I want to highlight briefly too, is like there are certain, like we've been talking about the technical aspect, and that part is like at least more cut and dry, right? It's like there's actually a right answer and a wrong answer to every single question. But like there are parts of the recruiting process where it's not that cut and dry. It's not like for example, on your behavioral interview, or like on your resume, like what to put on it, or like in your networking emails, like how to write those emails. Those are more like open-ended questions, right? And that's where like everyone's gonna have a slightly different way of doing it. And you talked about earlier, like just kind of getting, rather than just watching a course or reading an article on the internet, like getting that specialized advice or customized feedback for your specific situation, like for your set of experiences that you've had, for the stories that you want to tell. Like that's there's no like
Mhm.
that can't be a one size fits all approach, right? Which is why most of the time, like everyone's like, oh well, I'm just gonna read an interview guide and like prep for my behavioral interviews. But like everyone else that's also reading the same guides are using the exact same answers. And that just can't be the way that you kind of like set yourself apart from other people, right? Like
Absolutely.
you have to like take the stories and the experiences that you've had from your past experiences, and then like really synthesize the best parts of it and position it and present it in a way that's going to be compelling to investment bankers, and it's going to fit and align with what the bankers are looking for. And that's how you actually really set yourself apart, right? And so like
Yeah.
I think that personalized um, aspect of like the feedback that you get, I think more than anything else, that's like really the biggest difference maker in my opinion, versus someone who's maybe just reading like a static guide or an article online or YouTube video or whatever, you name
Yeah.
it, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and speaking on the behavioral specifically, I remember getting my behaviorals back after being edited and getting the personalized advice. And I remember actually one of my behaviorals, I think it was actually one of like my strengths or something that I had written out. Whoever had edited my behavioral mentioned that he had read so many in the past that the one that I specifically used was just like a little bit overused, and if I could just like kind of either think of a different story or reword it or something, that would definitely benefit me in the long run, just because you really have to separate yourself from everyone that you're competing with for these positions. And so being able to differentiate yourself with different kinds of stories, and being able to articulate on those stories in the way that whoever's the interviewer can can really be like, wow, like this is a really great candidate. This is like really different candidate. I think that's just kind of the secret to eventually getting an offer. And so, yeah, I think that that aspect was definitely very beneficial.
Yeah, and actually you bring up a good point, which is like the other thing about behaviorals too is like it's not about whether you have the right answer or the wrong answer. It's about how good your answer is relative to your
Hmm.
competition's answers, right? And
Hmm.
so, like
Exactly.
most people, because you're going through the recruiting process for the first time, like you don't really know what your competition is saying. Like you know what you want to say, but you don't know what other people are saying. And so it's useful to have someone who has actually seen a lot of other people's answers tell you things like, hey, your answer for this particular question sounds just like everybody else. And then you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Right. And then now,
Hmm.
but now I know and I can go back and change it. Right. And so, like, the ability to kind of like benchmark yourself against other people or the people that you're competing against and like really calibrate how you stack up against your competition, like I think that's also a really important part that just a lot of people are missing as they're going through this process, right? Because if you don't know that, then you're kind of going through this process like in the dark almost, and you have your answers prepared and you're going into these interviews and you're just kind of hoping that like, hey, fingers crossed, hope my answers are better than other people's, but I don't really know if they are, but hope they are, right? And it's like you don't want to just hope, you want to know with certainty when you go into the interview that like, yeah, my answers are, you know, absolutely phenomenal, and like that gives you more confidence as well as a candidate, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm in full agreement. Yep. Confidence is definitely key as well. So that definitely, Wall Street Mastermind helped with that as well. Can't
Yeah.
lie.
um so I guess like one of the last questions I have for you is just, do you have like one piece of advice that maybe you really benefited from, that you want to kind of pass down to other people who are, maybe just going through the process now, or maybe they're like you and they didn't really get started until they were a little bit too like a little bit later in the process, and maybe some banks had already closed, like whatever advice that you feel like is really valuable that you want to kind of share with our audience, like do you have anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been recruiting for I, like seriously about 9 months now, and very seriously like put my head down recruiting for about 6 months. And I have to say, it's not recruitment itself is not like exactly fun. It's not a fun time. You're definitely you're grinding, you're hitting the books, you're networking constantly, and it definitely takes away for your free time. So
Um,
overall, like the main goal, other than to get an offer, is to do it as quickly as possible and get something that you're happy with. And so, I think that the best way to set yourself up to do that is to start as early as you can. And this is coming from someone who started pretty late and was told to start early. And I was given that advice, and I definitely would need to reiterate and pass it down because, let's say you're a sophomore or even a freshman, getting those like relevant internships beforehand are really important. And I didn't have any very relevant internships, and so I really had to kind of twist my answers. And I took, obviously I was on finance clubs on campus, so that helped me. But I needed to really twist my internship experience to kind of apply to a role in investment banking. And so starting really early, let's say freshman in college or even a sophomore, first semester, that would help you kind of understand what investment banking is, what you're going to need to do throughout that time. And if you break it down from, starting earlier in your college career, then you won't have to cram it all in, in the end of your sophomore year and your beginning of your junior year. And it's just so much better that way. And so, I definitely recommend to begin networking early, and then, definitely prep behaviorals and technicals at the same time. I think something I really started to do in the beginning was that I actually networked completely and like only networked until I got an interview. And then I decided to do both my behaviorals and my technicals, and it's just too much. So, networking, you have to really balance it out. So, you do your networking, you work on your behaviorals and your technicals so that when you do come across an interview, you're well rounded in every aspect. So, you've spoken to people in the bank, your behaviorals are strong, your technical knowledge is strong, and that'll set you up well. And if someone's in Wall Street Mastermind, I definitely would advise to use the every resource that is available to you. There's the Facebook group, which has some extra guides and a bunch of other things that are extremely helpful throughout the recruitment process. Um, there are, the channels of everyone that's working to get offers, and the mentors as well, who can help answer your questions and guide you in the right direction. And then you're also there's specific private channels where you could ask your more personalized questions as well, and that's really helpful. So, and making those connections and friendships within Wall Street Mastermind is kind of cliche as it sounds a little bit, but I think that was a huge game changer for me, and I really can't stress that enough. I mean, someone I'm going to be working with next summer really helped me throughout the entire interview process and gave me guidance. And now I know him, and it's been great because he's going to be my coworker, and he's someone I met through Wall Street Mastermind. So
Oh
I
no
think
way.
it just makes such a big difference.
Who's gonna be your coworker? Is it Karosh or Karosh?
Yeah, Karosh. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you guys are going in the same group. Yeah, he's a great dude. But dude, like that last point, honestly, like I think it's so understated. Like most people don't even think about it, but like, I tell everyone, like, yes, our first and foremost, our goal in this program is like get you a job in banking, obviously, and that's like a very, very valuable outcome. But like, honestly, the other really valuable outcome I feel like is the personal relationships that you develop with other people in Wall Street Management. Like,
Mhm.
really, like the equity that you build up, or like, that saying, like, your network is your net worth. Like there's so many people in Wall Street Mastermind who are going to be graduating and going into these really, high paying jobs. They're going to go on to great exit opportunities. Like a lot of people that are just going to one day be very, very successful people, and you're a part of this network that you can continue to leverage for the rest of your career and continue to tap into this for, referrals to other jobs, and, who knows, future investment opportunities and whatnot. And it's like, this is like literally why people pay so much money to go to like business school, Harvard Business School, like get an MBA, not so they can like sit in a classroom and listen to a professor lecture them, but like actually because they want to say, hey, in the future, I'm a Harvard Business School grad, and every city I go to, there's going to be someone there that I know. Right. And I'm not saying this is Harvard Business School, but like it's a similar idea where it's like you're going to meet a lot of people in Wall Street Mastermind,
Mhm.
who are going to go on to do great things, and these people become your friends, and you would have never met them otherwise because they don't go to the same school as you, right?
Mhm.
And so I think
Yeah.
that's something that people don't typically think about when they um come and join Wall Street Mastermind, but then it's like a nice little bonus that they walk away with at the end of the day on top of their offer. So I think that's a really
Absolutely.
beautiful thing.
And to add to that point, actually, I think the main aspect is, or even question regarding that is like, why would I like how or why would I even make friends with all these just like random people, or these random people that are just like in this channel in this program that I'm not like really communicating with directly or anything like that. But the one like I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it's just such like a give and take kind of community, and where like you're taking by seeking advice from other students, and the students are so willing to give advice and answer your questions, but then you're also like giving out, when the answer to a question, you're answering it, and when other people are asking you for help, you're answering it. So I remember like I had just interviewed with Centerview, and someone had asked me, knew that I was interviewing with them, and asked me for some advice, and then I developed a relationship in that way. And I was so willing to help because that's people have done that for me in the past. And so just that like that community feel, and people like the people's willingness to do that, it really just it makes the difference.
I think that's huge, right? I think, and I'm not gonna take credit for that. Like that was not. So when I first started Wall Street Mastermind, I didn't know. I was thinking like, oh, people will probably be pretty cutthroat, pretty competitive with each other. People are probably not gonna want to help each other out. But there's just something that kind of developed organically where, um,
Yeah.
people were just very helpful, and then like this culture is kind of just it just became that way. It's like it's normal. It's the expectation is that everybody's helping each other out, right? And so I've actually thought about that. It's like, why is it that way? Because we do hear from like a lot of our students that go to target schools, like people that go to like Wharton and Columbia, NYU, and maybe even Cornell. And it's like at those
Mm.
schools, like everyone's so smart, everyone's so hardworking. There's all these high achievers, everyone's trying to get the best jobs, but like it can be pretty cutthroat, right? And like
Oh, it's so competitive.
yeah, and
Yeah.
people aren't like trying to like go out of their like, especially people in your own class, they're not trying to go out of their way to help you because if you get a job, that's one less job for them. right? And so, but like for whatever reason, it's not like that in Wall Street Mastermind, and I really think it's because one, just like you said, like this culture has been established, and the people above you and the older people, they're continuing to pay it forward, and then so people kind of see that and kind of just learn that, okay, that's how I'm supposed to behave in here. But then two, I think also just that because we don't work with that many students, like if you look at the number of students that we with in any given year relative to like the overall pool of investment banking applicants that are out there, um
Mhm.
we probably make up like, I don't know, 0.01% of the applicant pool or something. Right. And so it's like, it just, there's no scarcity basically, because like everybody knows that, hey, as long as I do the work that I need to do in this program, like there's enough jobs to go around for every single person here. And most of the people in here are getting jobs
Mhm.
anyway. So like people aren't worried like, oh, if you get a job, then I might not have a job. It's like, and that actually creates like a very nice environment where everyone's helping each other out, and then everyone's winning together, and then like everyone actually ends up
Mhm.
getting a better result because they're being collaborative as opposed to being competitive, right? So I
Right.
think that's actually like
Exactly.
one
Yeah,
of
and
the
it's just so
things I've
cool how
loved
that
seeing almost,
develops
yeah.
naturally.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was saying that it's just so cool how that just developed naturally, and like that's just how the culture is. And I think it's people coming to Wall Street Mastermind, looking for help, and once they receive it, once you're receiving help, you just want to give it out as well. So it's just so cool how that just like naturally happened, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, yeah, it's the human nature of reciprocity. Which which no, like that's, I think that's one of my favorite things about this community for sure. So but anyway, that's awesome, man. So guys, for those of you that are still kind of listening to this, if you're kind of in your similar situation, maybe you want to get into investment banking, you're serious about it, but maybe you find yourself a little bit behind the eight ball. Maybe you like, should have started earlier, but you didn't start early enough, and now, or maybe you are starting early, it doesn't really matter, but ultimately you just want the most efficient way to go about this process. You want to maximize the probability of you getting not just into investment banking, but also like getting the best offer that you can get, right? Kind of like
Mhm.
maximizing your potential. Then I want to encourage you to reach out. You can, book a call with our team uh, to learn more about the program. And actually, in fact, before you even talk to our team, what we typically do is you can actually book a free coffee chat with one of the alumni, just like an upperclassman that's already gone through our program recently, and someone who's already got an offer from one of the top banks. And you can actually just talk to a real human being who's already worked with us, and you can ask them for, you can ask them anything you want. You can ask them for recruiting advice. You can tell them about your personal situation right now. Ask them what they would do. You can ask them about their experience in the program. Just really anything you want. The time is really yours, and have that conversation, and then based on that, if you still afterwards are still interested in working with us, then you can reach out, or they can help you set up an additional follow-up call with our team, at which point we'll learn more about your situation to see if or how we might be able to help you, right? And like, if after you talk to them you don't feel like you want to work with us, that's totally cool too. Like, this call is completely free and it's on the house, and it's just like you can take whatever advice you get, go out, implement it on your own, and like either way, we just want you to get as much value as possible from your interactions with us. And so with that said, if that's something that you're interested in, you can go to www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. The street is abbreviated to ST. So the URL is wallstmastermind.com/apply. And we look forward to talking to you and hopefully helping you out. All right. So with that said, Andrew, I want to thank you for taking the time to share your story with us. Obviously, super happy for you that you ended up with such an amazing offer, and also it's pretty cool that you're going to be working with someone else from Wall Street Mastermind as well. But
Yeah, definitely.
it's been a long 9 month grind, and you absolutely deserve all the success that's coming your way. And so I just look forward to staying in touch and seeing what you're able to accomplish in the future. And then if there's anything else that we can still help you with, obviously you're always part of the family, so you know how to find us.
Thank you, Sam. And I like how you call it a family because it definitely feels that way. So, yeah, I mean, I'm so appreciative of everything that Wall Street Mastermind did for me, and I'm definitely looking to help future students in any way I can. Whether they're reaching out to me over LinkedIn or anything, just throw Wall Street Mastermind in the subject line, and I'll be sure to respond.
I'm gonna send all the city applicants your way, man.
Definitely gonna
Dress
have to
safe,
book out a few.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, no, thank you.
All the city applicants right now, they all bug Daniel Stone because he.
Oh, including me. I was one of them.
But anyway, that's awesome, man. It was great talking to you, and I hope we get to catch up again soon. But for the rest of you that are still listening, guys, we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back with more of these for you guys in the near future. And until next time. All right.